Chapter 8, Charade for Fools. Alright, we actually get to see the party. I'm so happy. Is that a fancy cyber piano, by the way, in the background? Because if so, I love it. I learned quickly the type of party Karis hosted was not for me. In fairness, I wasn't a fan of parties in general. See, you and Jack just keep getting along more and more. Not outside of the family-oriented ones my mum planned. I was used to that sort. Family gathered together with homemade food, music, laughter, and a lot of talking. This party had talking, but it wasn't the same. The conversation was polite, distant, and sometimes disinterested. It was all so formal and fake. People putting on smiles and being polite because they were talking to someone that might be more important than they were. Many conversations were business-centered. Some were about the government or economy, all of which was to be expected given the host and the guests. But I felt very out of place. I was glad CAISSA glued himself to my side and didn't leave it, though it wasn't as overwhelming as I'd expected. Many people came up to us when we entered, but most ignored me after the brief introduction. They were there to speak with CAISSA since they had no idea who I was yet. I wasn't disappointed at the lack of attention, but the build-up to the party had me expecting something different. No one knew there would be an engagement announcement, just an important announcement. CAISSA wasn't sure when the announcement would happen, which left us with nothing to do but mill around and speak with people. There were a few individuals I recognized, mostly people from the government. I heard a few familiar names here and there as well. There was the president of this famous company or that philanthropist. They were all wealthy, which was to be expected, I suppose. At the moment, I was listening to CAISSA chat with someone, a man named Donovan, about something to do with his father's company. To be honest, I didn't know too much about Aerithros Industries. I thought they did something to do with batteries and power storage, but CAISSA and this man were talking about cybernetics? Something about this guy's face is familiar to me too. I don't think I've seen him before, but he just reminds me of somebody. I can't think who.
I understand your concerns, but of course I don't control the votes. If the evidence shows the Aerithros cortical lobe replacement is a form of AI, I'm afraid research will have to halt.
It's not AI. We're not trying to do full prefrontal lobe replacements. But our technology could improve the lives of many people with substantial brain injuries, especially in the absence of the enhanced nanomedicine of the Triad. Without the ability to perform targeted nanotherapy, many in Delphine are forced to live with impairments our technology could fix.
Targeted? Medical injections that temporarily boost a person's nanosystem in local areas to assist in healing of significant injuries. We may have read about this before. The nanites and nano-infusions are programmed to focus on repairing damaged bone or tissue within a specific location before they deactivate and are reabsorbed by the body. This is an expensive treatment that isn't accessible to most of the population outside of extreme emergency treatments.
Nevertheless, there are concerns about technology that can mimic prefrontal synthesis. I believe that's what it's called.
Unfounded concerns.
Perhaps if your father was willing.
My father left this project in my care.
It's a pity you're not quite the negotiator he is.
This man, I didn't like him at all.
Which is why I'm asking for your help in acquiring the votes we need.
I'm afraid I can't help you. Our international treaties are.
Those centuries-old treaties were not made with Delphine's best interests in mind. They are outdated and ridiculous. They need to be...
AI panic. During the AI panic followed the Civil War, most biosynths were banned from other domes and forced to relocate to Erebos. There was little real reason or logic behind it other than attempting to quell the fear of a public who found themselves terrified at the thought of being at mercy of the planetary AI. All biosynths were demonized and targeted en masse. Relocating them to Erebos was a response to the public outrage against artificial intelligence, and while many biosynths attempted to fight the injustice, the cases were upheld in the court system, leading to biosynths officially being banned from citizenship or residency inside the Triad. Most domes that maintain any sort of relationship with the Triad are required to adhere to specific agreements and treaties that keep biosynths out of most other domes on the planet, at least officially.
No one will jeopardize our relationship with the Triad, nor provoke Endgame for the sake of your little project, young Mr. Fianchetto.
This is why we can't make progress.
You care too much.
Donovan laughed and set a hand on CAISSA's shoulder as he slipped past him. He leaned close to whisper something I don't think I was supposed to hear.
For this reason, some of us are quite concerned about the fate of your family if something unexpected were to befall Caris. It was a pleasure to meet you, Miss Leone. I hope to see much more of you soon.
Are you all right, CAISSA? His expression was surprised, then confused. Well, he insulted you. Twice. And that last part also sounded vaguely threatening, to be honest, you think? Not to mention that a project CAISSA was passionate about seemed like it might fall through.
Of course, I'm fine. I'm used to these sorts of things.
Ugh, what a repugnant person.
You'll meet more like him tonight.
Charming. And for what it's worth, that project you were talking about? I would like to know more about it sometime. Aww. He gave me a faint smile.
Perhaps I'll share more details over dinner sometime.
And I hope that old fool is wrong about the parliamentary votes.
In the worst case, I'll have to resort to bribes, as he well knows. I can arrange for a little accident if you're already tired of him.
Accident?!
Jack, your jokes are as tasteless as ever. Who says it was a joke? Just a little tweaking of his car's power cell. Tempting as it is, we still need him.
I don't know whether to be horrified or astonished you're talking about this so openly.
You'd be surprised what you can get away with in the open, Butterfly.
In all honesty, I was surprised to learn Erythros Industries was more than just a shell corporation. How a business tycoon ended up running a criminal organization was beyond me. I tuned out Jack's incessant bantering with CAISSA, scanning the crowd of guests. Someone familiar caught my eye, and I snapped my gaze back to the left to try to catch sight of them again. Silver hair? I frowned. Surely I'd seen that wrong. I could have sworn I saw that man, Winter Ashton. That detective's partner? There was no way he'd be here, though. Okay. No, I was just on edge waiting for this announcement. It had to be someone else. Someone else approached CAISSA, and there were more introductions and conversations to distract me anyway. Should I be concerned? Probably. It was about half an hour into the party when Caris finally got everyone's attention. I don't even know how. I didn't hear anyone call out or anything. There was just a slow ripple of silence that spread through the room, and everyone looked his way. My heart went into overdrive when he started to speak. Are you just wearing, like, your normal suit? You didn't even get dressed up for your own party? CAISSA took my hand and set it in the crook of his arm again, though I didn't know if it was meant to be comforting or if he was maintaining appearances.
I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I know some of you are aware that what was intended to be a simple get-together of like-minded colleagues and acquaintances has become something more important.
It was so strange watching the cold and frightening man I knew put on such a warm smile as he spoke in front of the crowd. No wonder no one in New Albion had a clue what the Fianchettos were really like.
My second-born has finally met a charming woman he has decided to make his own. I wish to congratulate both CAISSA and his new fiancée, Morgan Leone, on their engagement.
Everyone began whispering and looking our way. CAISSA smiled and nodded at the round of murmured congrats. I did my best to mimic him as best as I was able.
I'm truly happy such an intelligent and well-mannered woman is taking the Fianchetto name. And I'm very much looking forward to the next generation of Fianchettos, and what they'll bring to the family.
The thought of you as a grandfather is horrifying, dear sir.
I agree. I like that she's not opposed to having the kids. She's just like, him as the grandfather, mm-mm.
He raised his glass, and the waiter scurried to make sure everyone had champagne to toast. I ended up with some shoved in my hand as well. There was a chorus of cheers and a smattering of congrats as everyone followed suit and raised their glasses. I took a careful sip before CAISSA removed my glass and hastily set it on the tray of a passing waiter.
Brace yourself. It's just starting.
I didn't have time to think about anything else before we were bombarded with people wanting to congratulate us and meet me again. There was a whirlwind of names I had no hope of remembering, but everyone suddenly seemed to know mine now that I was important enough to be remembered. My accent had gone unremarked on earlier, but now people asked about it straight away.
I'm so curious how the two of you met while you were studying in New Albion. Lovely city, a bit too warm for my taste.
I was attending a charity event in the city some months ago. We met quite by accident, but I was immediately charmed by Morgan's intelligence and unique worldview.
And her beauty, of course.
Of course.
But what about school? I've heard the education system in New Albion is competitive. Were you already removed from the system?
Morgan was still studying. Delphine, as you know, has good universities as well. Morgan is still settling in, but there will be ample opportunity for her to continue her education.
And then our friend Donovan was back, all smiles.
CAISSA, why didn't you tell me this enchanting young woman was your fiancé?
He clasped my hand as he smiled into my eyes.
I thought surely she was just an escort for the evening.
Charming.
Her face! Like, urge to kill rising.
Did he say an escort? Stupid, repulsive old... I'm sure you're not saying you believe CAISSA needs to hire an escort service to have a date to a party like this.
Of course not. Though I have seen him with quite a wide range of women in the past. I'm surprised to find out you're his type. But as the future daughter-in-law of the Fianchetto family, perhaps a more conservative dress would be in order for future events.
Oh, go jump off a cliff. Ooh, I like how she turned it around. She's learning quick. Go, Morgan, go. I'll be sure to tell my future father-in-law to moderate his gifts in the future. I would have worn something else if I knew people would be so critical of father's tastes. Ooh, she got him! Good job, girl! When I called Kara's father was when CAISSA finally lost it and snorted into his hand. You're supposed to be good at this, come on! I gave him an amused glance as he tried very hard to pass that off as a cough. As for Mr. Donovan, he laughed awkwardly and moved away. That's what I thought! Insipid troglodyte. CAISSA laughed again, this time not trying to hide it. He's clearly jealous your date is far superior to his lack thereof.
I suspect he's rather more jealous he will most certainly not be seeing more of you soon.
That wouldn't have happened even if I was an escort, I can assure you.
Damn.
Do you dance?
I can. Not well.
As long as you won't embarrass yourself, that's all that matters.
This is all I wanted. All I wanted ever since you put that dress on and we were having a party, I'm like, please, let there be a dance. This music! This is beautiful. I'm so excited. He took my hand and led me to the center of the room where a few couples had been waltzing off and on. I caught sight of Karis lingering near the edge of the dance floor, engaged in a conversation, though he clearly had one eye on what we were doing. CAISSA pulled me closer and eased us into a languid waltz.
It might be better to take a slight break from introductions, before you get into a fight with someone.
I think I maintained my composure well, considering he called me an escort. the warmth of CAISSA's hand against my bare back, sending pleasant prickles along my shoulder blade and upper back. I tried to ignore the stupid fluttering in my stomach and just focus on what my feet were doing.
Telling Donovan my father picked the dress was an excellent retort. I've quite fallen in love with the phrase, insipid troglodyte.
It has a nice ring to it.
I agree.
So during all the introductions, I realized we might have a minor problem.
Oh? And what is that?
Well, you owe me a ring. Girl, I can't with you. You're amazing. He looked startled for a split second before he broke into a laugh. It was a genuine laugh, not his usual dry chuckle. And if my heart hadn't already been racing, that would have put it there. That smile is not fair at all. CAISSA pulled me a hair closer, grinning.
I suppose I must get you one. And in the meantime, we'll tell everyone the one you picked had to be resized for your delicate fingers.
Uh-huh. I rolled my eyes, but somehow relaxed. A little.
I'm pleased you're handling this well, Morgan.
You make it a little easier.
Do I?
I just mean that you're reliable. Having you here makes it all tolerable. I guess I'm trying to say I can think of worse people to get fake engaged to.
I suppose I can agree to that.
To be honest, I've been a little worried about my kidnapping or attempted arrest. I'm sort of a missing person right now, aren't I?
I'm certain they had a plan in place for that. But I falsified your records long ago. Sloppily, so they wouldn't necessarily recognize it as my work. As far as anyone knows, you're traveling legitimately, and there's no record of any disappearance.
Your ability is so convenient, it's actually terrifying at times.
At times. But not always. Falsifying records doesn't change reality into a lie, or a lie into reality.
In this case, it may as well. If no one even realizes I disappeared, I may as well not have.
Perhaps.
And what about people asking how you proposed? So far, no one has tried to get more details, but you don't think people will find it strange I'd leave school and come all the way here so suddenly?
You don't think being in love with me would be enough to pull you from school?
Without at least some promise of being able to take a look at the Delphine ruins? I'm dubious. I gave him a teasing smile, relieved when he returned it. Wasn't quite sure he'd take that as a joke, as the joke it was meant to be.
I suppose that until we come up with a story, or until I pull enough strings to get you a tour of the ruins, you must do a good job at showing how devoted you are.
I'm not already doing a good job? What's lacking? Needs more swooning?
I can't imagine you swooning for anyone.
Then perhaps you need to work harder at eliciting a good swoon.
Pardon me. I hate to interrupt, but if I might ask a few questions.
At first I thought it was maybe one of the reporters CAISSA had mentioned. We hadn't seen any yet. What the hecky hey are you guys doing here? Have you been looking for her since she disappeared? You both look lovely. Not as lovely as CAISSA, but you look lovely. Well, now we gotta really swoon properly. We were having a beautiful waltz romantic moment, you guys. Read the room. But as soon as I saw who it was, I had to fight to keep my face neutral. But I was still so startled I just stopped. It was him!
Sorry to interrupt you both. I'm Robert Calvin, and this is William Ashcroft. We were hoping to get a few words from the new couple.
Robert Calvin, eh? Robert? How did they find me? How did they get in? I had so many questions, and I couldn't ask any of them.
As you can see, we're a little busy. Surely your questions can wait until a more appropriate time. We were hoping to hear how the two of you met. And, perhaps, Whether you intend to live here in Delphine, or if you'd like to go back to New Albion, Miss Leone.
His eyes never left mine as they spoke. I couldn't quite stop the faint hitch in my breathing at the mention of going back. Why? Why show up now? Why when I was already determined to stay?
I said we're not answering questions right now. You can...
I set my hand on his arm and smiled at him. It won't hurt to answer just a couple of questions, right? CAISSA's eyes narrowed, but he didn't stop me from taking a small step towards Reuben. Don't worry, I got this, boo. CAISSA and I met in New Albion. I was studying there, and we met while he was... visiting. For a charity event.
Oh. Coming here from New Albion must have been quite the change for you. How are you settling in?
Well... I took a deep breath. It's growing on me.
Is it now? Not often Albionans emigrate here by choice.
Is that so? Most of them probably aren't in my exact situation.
And what situation is that, Miss Leone?
Well, I'm in love, of course. When CAISSA offered me to come here, I couldn't refuse. After all, this is the best place for me, I think.
Is that so? Morgan?
Winter casually shoved his way into the conversation, shooting me an unassuming smile.
And how do your parents feel about their daughter moving so far away without any warning?
CAISSA stepped between us, a scowl on his face.
Her parents are fine with our engagement. Are they? They are.
Listen, if you want a quote for your news story... I took a deep breath. I chose to come here because it was the right decision for me. Setting aside everything else about my sudden move, it's easy for people in the Triad to get caught up in their personal goals without thinking about the bigger issues facing Arcalis, since we rarely encounter the sort of problems faced here. But in Delphine, people fight to solve those problems. I admire that.
That was enough to make you want to stay here.
Yes. That was leaving out a lot of details about it, but that was the truth. I didn't even know how Reuben and Winter made it this far, or how they'd found me. And why they were so determined to find you. But an offer to go back? To Endgame? Because that was going to be my fate if I returned. At least here, I had other options. I could help make a difference. And maybe... more. That was a big pull to keep me here.
One more question. Are you any relation to Teresa Leone?
That's my mother.
I was meant to interview her at an art exhibit a week and a half ago, but she didn't show. I found out she relocated too. Also very suddenly. Any word on that? Enough!
He waved to someone over Reuben's shoulder.
Jack, show these two out. If you...
Jack, who had been lurking nearby, stepped closer without a word. He grabbed Reuben by the arm and pulled him away. I heard him speaking to them in a low voice as CAISSA steered me in the opposite direction. I spared one last glance over my shoulder at them.
Who are they?
His voice had taken on that frosty edge it had when he was annoyed. I took a deep breath and met his gaze. What will happen to them?
Jack will show them out, as I said. They're nothing but rowdy journalists as far as anyone else knows. But you know their actual identities.
They're detectives. I met them the same day I encountered those two from Endgame. I have no idea how they ended up here looking for me. Oh, right, because remember, I think in the common route I was supposed to not... basically just don't talk to Reuben. Don't have the interview. And I thought that was just so that we meet CAISSA. But maybe it had a double-edged thing of he doesn't know as much information as he could have if Morgan had talked to him. That's interesting. And now I've gone off on a tangent. I can't remember how I read this thing, so I'm going to do it again. I have no idea how they ended up here looking for me.
Neither do I. I'll need to check into it. Is that silver-haired man an Esper?
I don't know. I don't think he is. At the very least, I don't see any Psi around him.
I see. If he was a bishop, it might explain how they found you.
I can say with certainty he's not a bishop.
If not, it's impressive they could track you down despite my changing the records.
They're both with Utpal's special investigations. And I think we read about this when we talked to Ruben the first time. Maybe I'll read it again because it's been a while. United Triad Police Organization. This international investigative body has jurisdiction throughout the Triad and with some of their allies. They work across multiple nations and city-states, sharing access and data on crime and criminals on both local and international investigations. There is a General Assembly that meets twice a year to make decisions regarding the organization, and each participating dome has a central bureau that coordinates with other domes. They fight a variety of crimes, including severe cybercrimes, terrorist activities, and international criminal networks. And they have a special investigations unit that primarily handles crimes against or perpetuated by Espers. As such, they frequently interface with Endgame. There are no members of Utpal on the night side of the planet, and the organization has no jurisdiction there. They often have difficulty investigating crimes perpetuated by criminals centered on the night side, or that flee back there to avoid prosecution. So they really made an effort to come over here, even though they have no jurisdiction. Very interesting.
As for crimes, then, I suppose that could explain some of it. Regardless, we'll look into it. It could be a case of an especially astute detective.
He gave me a long look, eyes flicking away from me, then back as if anxious about something.
What you said back there... No, never mind.
The music ended, and CAISSA led me off the dance floor. Not that it mattered, since our dance had been interrupted anyway, and there was no CG of it, dang it.
We'll find a moment to get away soon. Just stay with me a while longer.
I nodded absently. Ruben and Winter. If they tracked me all the way here and sneaked into a party at the Fianchettos to try to get in contact with me, I wondered if they'd be convinced to go back home without me because they returned away from a single party. I hope they'd be okay. Ugh. How long until someone comes looking for us? I kicked my shoes off, groaning again at my poor aching feet. Standing for 2 hours in those heels was not my idea of a good time.
With luck, they won't. However, since this place isn't private, we can't be careless.
I flopped on a nearby bench, stretching my legs out.
I apologize. I thought I'd be able to get us away sooner. I did not expect my father to attach himself to us after that incident with... the reporter.
It's all right. It wasn't too bad. He took a seat next to me on the bench, watching as I tipped my head back to look at the dark sky beyond the glass. I still can't get used to how much darker it gets here in Delphine. Even with the city lights, the sky is just so dark.
Do you miss it?
Well, I don't not miss it. But I wasn't lying when I said Delphine is growing on me. The people mostly, but also Delphine itself. Still, sometimes it's unnerving. That empty blackness stretching out above us like that.
It's not empty. You can't see many stars this close to the city, but they're visible in parts of Chestershire, and from some other domes on this side. I'll show you the next time we're there.
I've never seen them before now. Isn't that strange?
There are people here who have never seen the sun. It's no stranger than that.
The stars are just suns that are far away.
By the same token, the sun is just a star that's nearby.
I guess that's true, but it's not the same.
There's much you can miss when you're trapped on this side or the other, isn't there?
That's true. I keep learning more and more how true it is.
The stars on this side of the planet are beautiful. I'm sure you'll love them.
He reached and brushed his fingers through my hair. Whoa! Okay, I'm okay with us not having a dance CG all of a sudden. Well, I guess the evening went well. I glanced at him, startled when he leaned towards me and planted a soft kiss to my lips. Kate... He leaned further in, his lips brushing my earlobe and eliciting a gasp. Hold on. I have my kiss meanings list. Hold on. Ears is lust. Ooh! Alright, we got some spicy lust, guys. I knew this kiss list was gonna come in handy again. Oh, someone found us. No, but you went for the ears of your own accord, okay, sir? I know what it means.
It would appear someone has found us. I'm unsure who. Please play along.
Before I could respond, he kissed me again, more firmly this time. I couldn't even react at first. So many thoughts sprang to mind, flying through my head too fast to comprehend. And so many feelings crashed in at once. My hands found their way to his chest. Of course we're gonna go affectionate. He'd said someone had followed us, so I should play along, right? That wasn't hard. It was just a kiss, after all. Right. Just a kiss. There you go. Perfect. Looking great. I wound my arms around him, twining my fingers through his soft hair, and CAISSA pulled me closer. He held me gently, surprisingly so, cradling the back of my head in one of his hands. Yet his lips were also demanding, pressing in then pulling away only to return seconds later. And I was reminded just how long it had been. Heat spread from my stomach, fluttering its way up to my chest as I unconsciously pulled him closer. CAISSA's other hand found my back, tracing a careful path down my spine. Pleasant tingles followed behind his touch. I tried to ignore the growing euphoria, to remind myself this was all an act, for an audience that might not believe our lie. But that reality was rapidly fading behind his scent, his taste, the feeling of his hands, his lips, and tongue. And then I was lost in the gentle heat of that kiss. It wasn't as though I had to be in love to enjoy a kiss. If I could just ignore that soft, sweet sensation fluttering through my chest. You're gone, girl. You're gone. It's all over for you. The moment stretched, lasting longer than I expected it would. I lost track of everything around us, only remembering where we were when CAISSA finally pulled away. Look at that blush on that boy's face. And when his warmth was gone, replaced by the cool air of the garden, I was mostly concerned with trying to not appear as breathless as I actually was. CAISSA rested his forehead against mine for a brief space, letting his hand linger on my cheek as he let out a few ragged gasps. I guess he's not worried about being breathless. I shut my eyes, wanting to stay like that a little longer. To just rest in this moment for as long as I could. And when I looked at him again, it seemed like he wanted to say something. Those words hung unsaid in the heavy air, and he finally moved away from me and stood. Oh, I know, it's too soon. It's too soon, but it could have been more, but I understand. The anticipation's killing me. It's fine, it's fine.
Perhaps I should take you to your room. We'll stop by the party to inform Father we'll be retiring.
All right. I did my best to collect my wits as I stood and slipped on my shoes. That person who had been spying on us, for whatever reason they'd been spying, I wasn't sure if I should thank them or not. I let out a long, soft breath. Wow. I thought CAISSA would walk ahead of me, but he waited, then took my arm exactly as he had before. Neither of us spoke on the way back to the party. He'd only kissed me because someone had been there. That was both relieving and disappointing somehow. Though it might have been wishful thinking, that kiss hadn't felt fake. That sent a happy and nervous feeling fluttering through me. I wasn't sure what to make of it. Or how to feel about it. The quick stop at the party to tell his father we were retiring wasn't as quick as intended. There were reporters to deal with this time. Real ones. And they were insistent at getting some kind of gossip to write about. CAISSA dealt with them patiently, as was his wont. I dealt with them patiently because I had to. They were just doing their jobs in the end. Some things were the same no matter where you went. CAISSA was young, wealthy, and attractive, so people were curious about his love life. At least with my situation being what it was, I wouldn't have to worry about a terrible invasion of privacy all the time. Good luck to them when it came to getting any illicit photos of us. I mean, what with all the snipers to contend with. I was sure that wouldn't make things easy on them. Maybe one of them got a picture of your smooches in the garden, you don't know. It was a while before we could finally get away.
You look tired.
It's been a long night. Your father is a pain.
Morgan, we may be in my wing of the manor, but there are some things that are probably not safe to say, no matter where we are.
I'm tired.
Generally not considered a valid excuse for insulting the head of the family.
Please tell me I never have to do another of these parties again.
I could tell you that, but it would be a lie.
Ugh.
Well, next time the attention won't be on us as much as it was this evening, so it won't be as draining.
Socializing is so exhausting. This is why I'm an archaeologist, CAISSA. It's all about dead people. And rocks.
I can try to have more of both at the next party.
Coming from the son of a mafia family, that sounds far more horrifying than it should. Carrie was standing outside my room when we arrived. She nodded when she saw us.
Please give us a moment.
Of course. The moment she was gone, CAISSA reached for my face, smoothing my hair back.
I am sorry. I know this has been difficult. All of it. At least our situation is improved with this. There is no longer a concern about your status or whose care you'll be in. No one in the family will try to hurt you now. You're not only my fiancé, you're also the future daughter-in-law of Karis Fianchetto. Moving against you is moving against him.
People move against you, and you're his son.
That is somewhat different. Regardless, I believe this improves your situation. We'll also be able to leave the mansion more freely than before. That alone is incredibly useful.
I'm glad something good will come of this. I mean, good for you, specifically.
Us. Good for us. You'll benefit as well, unless you enjoy being unable to leave. Or perhaps you were intrigued by the thought of moving into another faction.
No, on both counts. And I understand that part. I'm just glad it's not a burden to you either. But I'm sure your father wouldn't have dumped that kind of burden on you without thinking it through.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
If he wanted to burden you, he could have made me your stepmother instead of your fiancé. See? You thought about it.
Perhaps you're right. Though I'm much more content with the current situation.
My breath fled my body when CAISSA leaned down to kiss me again. Hey, he didn't have to this time, girl! Because this time, I knew there was no one else nearby spying on us. I let out a squeak, but it didn't deter him in the slightest. My mind went blank under the gentle force of his lips. Oh, no. I should do something. Thoughts trailed away to nothing. This time, I was the one to pull him closer. Encouraged, CAISSA deepened the kiss, and I let him. Jack, your timing is awful! Just go away until next route. At this point, I'm tired of seeing your face. Just go away. Oh, things were getting so interesting. Fine. This guy just has main character syndrome. He's like, I gotta be here. They're forgetting about me. I need to show up. Anyway.
Hey, CAISSA. There you are. Oh, sorry.
CAISSA and I moved away from each other almost as fast as Jack let out an undignified cackle and retreated. All I saw of him was a blur that disappeared back around the corner. Yeah, you better run! CAISSA, of course, looked completely unperturbed. Though, on second thought, his face was suspiciously pink, as much as he was trying to play it cool.
I shouldn't keep you. You're tired, and you should rest. We'll be resuming our normal training schedule tomorrow.
He tipped my head up, and before I could react, placed a soft kiss to my forehead. Ah.
I look forward to it. Good night, Morgan.
I had no idea what sort of expression I was making, but given the way he smirked at me before he left, and how hot my stupid face was, I could imagine. I stood in front of my door for a really long moment, pressing my cold hands to my cheeks, trying to work out what had happened. It wasn't until I heard Carrie approaching that I retreated to my room, because I would not be able to mask my expression, and it was already embarrassing that Jack saw it. I let out an agonized squeal as I flung myself on the bed and buried my face in the pillow. What? What? I rolled over and stared at the ceiling. This thing growing between CAISSA and I didn't think I could deny my sight of it any longer. I didn't know what it was yet, and I didn't know if he was just lonely, or if I was just lonely. Two lonely people in a place where they felt trapped and sometimes hopeless. It was natural to turn to each other for comfort. But I was dead certain at this point that I was falling for him. I suspected it was mutual, which made me so happy, and also so scared. What am I doing? I told myself not to. It was a bad idea. I hadn't come to Delphine for this. I'd come in the hopes I could eventually find some sort of normalcy. Homeostasis amidst the insanity of suddenly being an Esper. And now this. I rolled over and pushed my face into the blankets. I'm an idiot. The moment I shut my eyes, I could feel his lips again, feel that kiss. Such an idiot.